Hello, I am Simon, and welcome back to the Underhand Free Throw. In this video, me and my co-host Ian are going to be talking about our top 5 rookies for this NBA season. Just a couple of days ago, we uploaded a video where we went over guys who would maybe qualify as like honorable mentions, rookies that we're really into, that we really love, but they didn't quite make our top 5 list because we're saving that for today. So these are the top 5 rookies, no particular criteria, just guys that we are like really high on both this season and going into the next few years. We think all these guys are going to be great. But before we get started, if you enjoy these videos, please be sure to give a like and subscribe to continue watching them. And let's get into our top 5.
Let's get into the 5 rookies that we think are the best of them, the ones that are actually good this year, or the ones that we believe, like we talked about earlier, like ones we believe are going to be the best NBA players, or the ones that we're going to like the most. Very vague criteria here.
These are just the players I like the most. I'm not going to say why, how, when, where. These are just like my 5 favorite guys this season for whatever the reason is.
My number 5, and I kind of want him higher now. Like I'm excited to talk about him, so it makes me want to bump him up. Keegan Murray, especially because Keegan Murray's no fun right now. He's getting a little bit more fun, but this is not the fun time to be a Keegan Murray fan. But let's talk about someone who is fun, and that is Jeremy Sochan. Okay.
What do you like about Jeremy Sochan?
So Jeremy Sochan, we talked about him a little bit in comparing him with Tari Eason, but there's parts of his game that are like obviously not great. The one-handed free throws are a good thing. I'm not going to list that. As they're going in. They're going in way better than they were before. So that rules. I will say we've now exited the pink era of Jeremy Sochan or into the green era. So we need to distinguish between the different players that he is with different hair colors. He is like, just starting off, like, to talk about his defense, which is mostly what he was drafted for. He's a super versatile defender. He's not like one of the best defenders in the NBA right now, but I feel like he has the chance to be in his career. In one of the games against the Timberwolves, I saw him in a very brief window of time block Rudy Gobert at the rim and then pick Ant's pocket at the at the top of the floor. Just like the versatility there is amazing. The motor is very strong. The intensity, the focus, he just has such a great feel for the game. You see it on offense and defense, like talking about his defense, like he's just constantly looking to be in the right place and noticing what's happening all over the floor and rotating really well and having just really great foot speed for a guy that size.
Yeah, I love Jeremy Sochan. I'm going to save some of my thoughts on him for when he comes up in my top 5.
All right, you got him.
Assuredly be there. Jeremy Sochan is improving rapidly. And part of that is just because the Spurs are changing how they're using him offensively. But part of that, I just really think he's getting better as the season goes on. So I loved Jeremy Sochan coming into the draft before he ever set foot on an NBA court. I loved him the first few games of the season when I first got to see him play. And that joy I have in watching Jeremy Sochan has only increased as time has gone on.
Yeah. His minutes have been stable across the whole season, but he's improving as a scorer. He's improving as a free throw shooter, where he's gone from being like 40% at the beginning of the year to he shot 60% the last couple months and hasn't missed a free throw. He's 1 for 1 in January, so it's going really well. Offensively, I think there's a lot to like about him as well. The handles are okay, which means he can move around the court with the ball in his hands a little bit better than maybe I was expecting initially. He's a good passer. He's been the out of bounds passer for the Spurs, like on all those plays. They usually put the ball in his hands for that. He's a great finisher. And he likes to post up, so those things go together really well. He's really happy to just sort of be around the paint, trying to cause havoc, and he'll post up a mismatch. It's tempting to think of him as like a broken non-shooter, I think, especially because of the free throws and the 20% 3-point shooting. But I don't think his shot is hopeless. Like, I don't think like there's no chance Jeremy Sochan isn't able to play at able to shoot the ball at a better level than this as his career goes on. So. Yeah, being on Sochan. I mean, I sort of tried to have these guys ordered and how good I thought they were going to be. I might have Jeremy Sochan up. He might be my number 3 favorite rookie.
Okay.
Actually, it might be my number 2 favorite rookie because Paolo's not my favorite rookie, but he's definitely my number 1 in terms of just rookies we have to talk about. That's not a spoiler. There's no like everyone, if you came to listen to us talk about Paolo Banchero, we're making you wait towards the end because he's far and away the best. There's just such a gap between him and the rest of this rookie class, but we'll get to Paolo soon, I'm sure. Who's your number 5?
Yeah. Man, you took most of my Sohan talking points. That's all right, though.
You let me. I gave you the floor, and you're like, I'm going to save them. I'm like, I guess I'll just have to give what I got on Sohan.
Well, you took my favorite rookie for number 5, just in terms of enjoyment. I didn't necessarily have him at number 1, but I'm going to take your probable favorite rookie that you enjoy watching at number 5, and that's Jalen Williams.
No,
of the OKC Thunder. I have him at 5. I love watching Jalen Williams. Maybe I should move him up. I don't know. Just a really enjoyable player to watch. He's awesome as a secondary/tertiary playmaker for the Thunder. Really great with the ball in his hands. Just seems like a really solid decision maker. He's very just one of those like slithery players, very solid handle, can get around guys, get to the rim. He does seem like more of a dump off pass guy necessarily than like a try to finish through contact guy. And I think part of that shows in his efficiency. Like he's shooting 76% at the basket. I think that is just because he doesn't take the shot unless it's a sure thing. And he's another guy that the advanced metrics hate.
Well, what rookies are?
Well, he's kind of an outlier. He's really
right. Yeah,
he's really down. And I think part of that is like Keegan Murray and like Shaedon Sharpe. The guys who don't get to the free throw line for whatever reason just seem to do really poorly in these advanced metrics. But anyway,
lineup data too. I think we discussed this at one point about Jalen Williams, is that he's played in a lot of like experimental like 5-guard lineups. Like it's like the OKC really oscillates more than any other team between wanting to win games and wanting to do like cool experiments. Like it's not a night to night winning mandate. So sometimes they're super competitive and they're crunching out like victories over good teams, and other nights it's just like, yeah, we're gonna play Poku and 4 point guards and just see what happens kind of thing. So Jalen Williams has been part of some experimenting, which I think is gonna really hurt him in terms of just basic on-off data, which is going to impact a lot of advanced metrics if they have those baked in.
They hung 150 points on the Celtics the other night without SGA, so
yeah, Shai's just getting in the way.
Yeah. One thing I will say though is OKC is so much like a 1-star team, and then just a bunch of like 8th men after SGA is. I think maybe some of the on-off numbers not liking Jalen Williams is just because when Jalen Williams is the playmaker for a given play, that means SGA is not the playmaker from a given play. And it's just like such a massive disparity when SGA is making things happen versus when anyone else is making things happen. That probably doesn't help out his case. But other thing I will say, like I mentioned this earlier when we talked about Jabari Smith. Being an elite mid-range shooter, that's something you don't see from a lot of rookies. It's on a super low volume, but Jalen Williams has been a really good mid-range shooter up to this point from pretty much everywhere. He doesn't have a weak spot. It's just anywhere he's taken a shot on the court inside the 3-point line, he's been highly effective. Outside the 3-point line is still a work in progress, but obviously with how good his shot is everywhere else, that is promising.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a funny. He's really only started to kind of get a firm role on this Thunder team, kind of in December. He came out, he looked like he was going to have a really promising start to the season, but he got hurt in his very first game. And then when he came back, they were sort of mixing him in a little bit as a starter. They were using him basically as a power forward. It was like him and Poku were being alternated as like the starter for a while there. So he didn't really have he was playing minutes, but he didn't really have a serious role on the team. It's only been once we've been getting into the winter where he's very clearly like a secondary ball handler when he's out there and been given a lot more responsibility. So we've only just started to kind of see what kind of player Jalen Williams is in the NBA, and it looks awesome. He's definitely my favorite rookie. After Paolo, I'm probably the highest about his potential right now. It's hard. We're not counting Chet, obviously, because Chet's not going to be a rookie in this class. Being in the draft
he's
class.
Omitted from all these lists, unfortunately.
he's been a monster finisher at the rim. He's been able to counter into his mid-range game. The outside shot hasn't been super consistent. He's been like a plus defender, despite the fact they put him in lots of miserable defensive situations. There's like, yeah, you're just going to guard the power forward this whole time. I think he's really leapfrogged Josh Giddey as the sort of second best prospect on this roster, and basically just like sign me up for Shea and Jalen forever. Like, I'm really excited about watching these two big guards just kind of like with a ton of creativity and a ton of ability to like bully defenses. Shea more with his like first step and slitheriness, and Jalen more with his sort of like, he's a really strong ball handler who can move people around. Really dangerous passer on the baseline. He reminds me a little bit of how I used to feel about James Harden when James Harden was in OKC. I feel like I'm watching this like big, sneaky, athletic, imposing, creative basketball player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't have him as the like best guard for future outlook like you do, but I do really like Jalen Williams. I just think that we have a couple of really good guards in this draft class, projecting forward. So I guess it's time for your number 4.
I mean, I think we've already gotten 3 of my 5 out, so we should probably. I had Keegan Murray at 4. I had Sohan 5, Murray 4, so we're up to 3. So who do you have
for my number 4?
Yeah,
my number 4, I have Bennedict Mathurin. I did ultimately. We knew it was going to be in my top 5 when we talked about the players that we liked but didn't quite make the cut. But Bennedict Mathurin, for me, obviously started out the season very strong. Shot around 40% from 3 for the first couple of weeks, and things have really tailed off since the month of December hit. And he's created a lot with a lot of his shot making. But there's a couple of things I really like for Bennedict Mathurin's future outlook. So, obviously you can look at him and say, like, very, very willing shot taker. The efficiency is quite poor. The willingness to make plays for others isn't quite there yet. But I want to look at the positives here. And there's 2 things that I like about Bennedict Mathurin. Very strong physical presence as a guard. He's, if you're going to play him at the 3, which the Pacers have been doing, like he's doesn't quite have the size and length that you'd quite want, but he does absolutely have the physicality and the aggression to hold up on that end. And the numbers so far show that he's been a, kind of just like an average defender. He doesn't help you. He doesn't hurt you. He's just kind of so defensively. And I'm going to take that as a win for a like young rookie, guard whose primary role is scoring. And the other thing I will say, the main reason why I have him slightly over Jalen Williams in terms of future outlook, even though, I'll totally take the points that he's not the same level of playmaker in stride. The shots haven't been going in, but he has been able to get shots off pretty much whenever he wants. Like, he has been a really effective shot creator. And normally you say that about guys who like can create the shots and they go in. And for him, he's creating the shots and they haven't been going in. But his ability to like pull up and shoot over people, his ability to get to the rim, even though like you mentioned earlier, he's way too willing to settle for a floater instead of like really trying to like draw contact and attack the basket itself, isn't great. But I just think like efficiency is the worst it's ever going to be as a rookie. Especially for a rookie in the latter half of the season, as he kind of starts to hit that wall and defenses start to figure out how to play him. And if the efficiency goes up, he's just going to be like a guaranteed 22 to 25 point per game scorer, And I just like really like that future outlook personally for a guy who doesn't need plays made for him, who can just kind of create offense for himself, provided he can get to a point where he's doing that at an efficient rate.
Yeah. I just don't believe that he can create offense for himself. I think that we're getting the impression of that in Indiana, but when I watch Indiana games, like I think I look at the point guards out there really being in control of that, and I look at Mathurin and his aggressiveness as being like the prime beneficiary of that. And if he wasn't aggressive, he wouldn't be benefiting from it. Like he'd still get some catch and shoot looks, but he wouldn't be getting all this offense at the basket. So again, like I give him credit for that, but I don't see like a promising off the dribble attacking game against said defenses that everyone was imagining in the first couple of weeks of the season when he was just on fire and hitting everything. Like, I'm a little bit more concerned that it's an aberration, but I do think the 3-point shooting is going to come back. I just don't really know. It's funny, we're talking with Jalen Williams, Bennedict Mathurin. I've got my old draft board up here, and I had them right next to each other. I had Jalen Williams at 13 and Bennedict Mathurin down at 14. So you already know, because he was really high on most people's draft boards, was kind of a draft darling for a long time. But I feel like I'm not seeing the same things as lots of people are there. But, so if I'm wrong, call me a hater. And if I'm right, call me really smart.
Okay, should I go into my number 3? We kind of already spoiled yours, but
nope, my number 3 has not come up yet. We spoiled my number 2, my number 4, my number 5. Number 3 is the only thing that is precious to me left.
Okay, let's go for it. Who do you got?
Dyson Daniels.
Okay.
Dyson Daniels is my number 3, like in terms of projecting for this rookie class, and the player I'm the most excited about. His defense is just is ridiculous. Like, he's one of, like, the same way that people were talking about Herb Jones last year is how I feel about Dyson Daniels this year, in terms of just, he plays defense like it kind of. A few years ago, they released, I mean, this is probably like 7 years ago now, but they released this, like, when they started coming out with tracking data for the first time, and they showed a little bit of the NBA visualization. You can watch how close a player sticks to their assignment and stuff, are based on like what the best possible defensive projection is. And I remember people talking about, like, Kawhi Leonard scores the highest on these things, and watching Dyson Daniels, it reminds me of that. Like, he's just such a, like, robotic, like, just kind of like shadow that just moves all over the court, and every single step is perfect, and he's quick. He always stays in front of his defender. He makes great defensive decisions. He's a good help defender. He's just smothering guys. They've been putting him out there in crunch time to guard the best player on the other team, and this is a team that has Herb Jones on it. Like he's getting the assignment over Herb Jones in crunch time, and offensively he hasn't popped off yet, and he's only just started getting minutes. But I'm very wowed every time I watch Dyson Daniels.
Well, I might disagree with you there. I mean, I don't think he's popped off in terms of point production yet.
I'm saying he hasn't popped up offensively at all yet.
Yeah, right. His career high is like 14 points or something, right? He hasn't had like a 30-point game yet. Yeah, I mean, my number 3 is also Dyson Daniels. I guess he's your number 2 guard you're most excited about. He's number 1 for me. And to me, he's just like the most obvious future high-level starting guard in this draft class. Just like complete no-brainer. You feel that way about Jalen Williams as well. I'm about 90% of the way there with Jalen Williams. Mm-hmm. But to me, Dyson Daniels, I'm 100% of the way there. Like, this is so clearly the future point guard of the Pelicans as CJ McCollum ages and maybe fades into a bit of a different phase of his career, different role. Yeah, the only thing I'll say is I got to see that elite skill. Dyson Daniels has that. I will say not so much with his defense. It's more his playmaking that's been the most impressive to me. Yeah. When he makes a pass, it is so decisive. And it's so just like on the money, He's had a couple plays. I have not watched a ton of Dyson Daniels play, but the little bit I have seen, he just has such great control of the game already as a rookie. And I've been really surprised because a year ago at this time, I don't know how this came out, but like in some of our like early mock drafts, Dyson Daniels was listed as like 6'3" or 6'4".
Right. Yeah.
So we saw a little bit of him play in the G League, and it was like a good player, but I don't know, like he's small, but I don't know if he had a growth spurt. I don't know if his measurements were just way off, but apparently he's like 6'7" or 6'8". And he looks it on the court. He's very tall, although very lanky.
Got that long neck too that, maybe makes him appear a little bit bigger than he plays.
Yeah, it might. But he does legitimately have some size. Like, he is taller than most other point guards.
Well, I mean, he's listed at 6'8", so he's he better be taller than other point guards.
Yeah. Just awesome defensive instincts, really, really smart, heady player. He can shoot. He does have a bit of a slower mechanical release, but he's so tall. Maybe he can get that thing off anyway, So, yeah, I'm super high on Dyson Daniels. I just think obvious future point guard for the Pelicans. Like,
yeah,
outside of injury or something terrible happening, like this is their future here. So,
yeah, we don't really get to see. It's harder to like project what his skills are. Like we don't see him, doing. He doesn't have a huge role out there on offense for the Pelicans right now.
Yet.
They're playing it like they're playing him more and more minutes because they just kind of have to because he's so good. But like we've barely seen it. He's like was barely playing earlier in the year, and even now he's still sort of like he's playing on a really deep team. But like the decision making is just so strong. Like it just feels like it's so weird to trust a rookie so much on offense and defense. Just sort of like, I know that you're going to do the right thing and you're going to make the decision really fast and very effortlessly. Like he's got a bit of that like creepy Tim Duncan robot, like fundamental sort of like style of play where it's just like, well, I don't need to think about this. Of course, I'm going to pass the ball there because that is what will most benefit. Like it's just such a like automatic kind of almost relaxed, stone cold style of play that he has. And yeah, I've just seen him like stonewall really good players in crunch time. It's like Dyson Daniels. I mean, he projected to be a really good defender and passer, and he's not disappointing in that regard at all.
Yeah, imagine a backcourt of him and Herb Jones. Like, how are you going to score on that? So much length.
The Pelicans are so fun. If it's going to be like him and Herb Jones and Ingram and Zion and Trey Murphy's been popping off this year, and he's another like super tall, quick-footed kind of like Najee Marshall has been like looking like a rotation player in there. Like the Pelicans are very fun right now. And yeah, Dyson Daniels is somehow the best defender on a team that has Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado. He's drawing the perimeter assignments on that one. So that's crazy. And that's why he's both our number 3s, apparently.
He came really, really close to being my number 2, but didn't quite make it there.
Who is your number 2?
Well, I mean, you already used up most of the takes on him. And I wanted to put Jeremy Sohan number 1, but chickened out a little bit at the end.
Well, I'll try to tease some extra takes out of you. What do you picture? What's your dream fully realized Jeremy Sohan? Jeremy Sohan is an all-star player 4 years from now. What does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's hopefully Draymond Green with a jump shot offensively.
Yeah. That sounds pretty good.
I paused for a second there for effect. I mean, obviously very different player than Draymond defensively, but kind of has a little bit of a similar offensive game, to Draymond. I think I can see that comparison a little bit. Yeah, he's been working on his jump shot. It's been steadily improving. I think he was below 20% to start the year. Now he's inching closer and closer to 30 over the past couple of weeks. Has a very fundamentally sound looking jump shot.
Yeah, it looks fine whenever I watch the footage of it. Just hasn't been going in very much.
Has such great touch around the basket. I don't doubt that he'll get there. I don't see him ever being a high volume scorer, but the Spurs have unleashed, maybe not point Sohan, like secondary ball handler Sohan a decent bit lately. And they've had him make these dives to the rim where he kind of just catches the ball and then he's free to either like pass it or try to finish at the rim. And either one that he's decided to do, it like has led to good results, like he's a good dump off passer, and he's pretty good at finishing the rim as well if he doesn't feel enough resistance in him getting there. And I think the length really helps him out around the basket. He is an excellent offensive rebounder with a lot of energy. There's not a whole lot to not like about Sohan other than like his ability to score. I think it's kind of like the only main thing that you could point to. Maybe like another comparison is like Andrei Kirilenko with more offense. He's kind of got Andrei Kirilenko's game defensively already.
Well, except for the like Andrei Kirilenko, might have had like a 7'6" wingspan and was like, could kind of like. I don't think Jeremy Sohan's quite there as a rim protector like Kirilenko is. Like
no,
but he has a similar kind of defensive versatility and
I meant
like mixed with passing and sort of like finishing ability without the necessarily the sort of overall scoring tools.
Yeah, I meant more so just like the Swiss Army knife ability, this like power forward with like unnatural quickness for his size who can guard 1 through 4 effectively, you know.
I think of like Sean Marion, but he's a better ball handler than Sean Marion is. Maybe and not quite that athletic either, but
no.
But he's surprised. Like every time Sohan dunks it or comes up with a big block, I'm always surprised at his sort of like his max vertical. Like he doesn't look like a big league. Like he's sort of like a thicker dude. I always kind of picture he seems like he's going to be ground bound, and then all of a sudden, like I mentioned, he is blocking Rudy Gobert at the rim, and like Rudy Gobert caught it high and brought it up like above his head, and Rudy Gobert is 7'2", and Sohan just managed to get like 4 fingers on that ball right at the rim, and it was just like, oh, okay, like I knew you were athletic, but that was he kind of like, you know, like it's almost like Aaron Gordon's kind of like that a little bit too. Like he spends a lot of his game on the ground, and then all of a sudden, just like when he explodes, and he's dunking over dragon mascots and or dunking over Landry Shamet in overtime.
Yeah. Sohan's a lot more, I would say, you know, he's not the slightest dude in the world, but he's definitely more spindly than Aaron Gordon is.
I think he'll get there though. I think he's got the build to put on some muscle.
Well, I think it just depends on how he wants, or how the Spurs want him to develop. Like, do they want him to fill out more and be more of like a 4.5 small ball 5 in some lineups, or do they want him to be more of a wing?
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, like this dude's so versatile, like you can kind of see it going either way and working out. Or maybe I'm just too high on Sohan. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think it's one of the things where it's like it really depends on the other players that the Spurs add. I think he's going to be this sort of like fill in the gaps guy, and he also like you know he's 6'9", but he doesn't have like the freaky. He's got a 7 foot wingspan. That's like really really good, but he's not he's not quite on the like level of like if he had a 7'3" wingspan, you know, he probably would have been a top 5 or 6 pick in the draft. So just sort of in terms of his physical potential and his prospect thing, he's sort of more in like the B+ physical freak than the A tier physical freak. But I love he's the exact sort of, I mean, who do you like more in terms of this archetype, like Jeremy Sohan or Scotty Barnes?
I mean, last season there would have been more of an argument for Scotty Barnes. You know, and we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier in the season, just like Scotty Barnes hasn't developed in the ways that a lot of people would have liked to see this season. He's kind of had a bit of a step back offensively. But I mean, Scotty Barnes is still super versatile, can still do a lot of things with the ball in his hands, still has crazy upside as a defensive player. Like, I don't know, they were kind of similar in some ways coming out of college. Scotty Barnes did way more as a playmaker and had the ball way more. But the way that he's developing, Scotty Barnes seems to be a little bit more developing into like settling into more of like a big, having more of a game where he's like centered around being around the rim, being in the paint, and Sohan is still open book in terms of you know, whether he'll become an awesome 3-point shooter or do stuff off the dribble guy or not.
No NBA archetype is more despised than the second year player who has not taken a leap. You'll take every rookie above them because they still could take that leap. They haven't failed in that specific regard yet. So, but yeah, I'm just making that comparison because they have that kind of similar like size and skill set where it's like we don't really know what their scoring package is going to be in the NBA, but we see the size and the motor and the playmaking as being a very like enticing bunch of stuff. Are we ready to talk about Paolo yet?
I guess we can get to Paolo now. Neither of us have revealed our number one, right? But it's no secret who it is. It's pretty much everyone's rookie of the year pick, Paolo Banchero.
Yeah, I love one of us to take like, no, Paolo's not on my list. Not that good.
It's just I would love to put Sohan or Dyson Daniels above Paolo. unabashedly enjoy watching those players more, and they kind of like fit my taste in NBA players more so than Paolo does. But like, it's just Paolo is the only guy in this draft class so far who has shown like just clear future number one scoring option.
Yeah.
Like,
also, I mean, if playmaking is more your thing, like Paolo's no slouch in that regard either. Really good passer, really willing passer. Like, very quick to hit shooters and find cutters. Like, likes to pass and is getting better at it as the year goes on. He's been improving as a passer really dramatically over the past 2 years, both in college and in the NBA. Like his high school highlights. Not that high school highlights are like useful, but I never imagined him being a passer. Like, I pictured like, oh, you're thicker Mike Beasley. That was like, you're this overwhelming like 6'9" dude, and you're even bigger and more athletic than Mike Beasley was, but you're going to be this like face-up scorer, and that's kind of it. And we'll see how you develop like defensively. But then halfway through his college season, all of a sudden he was kind of just throwing a lot more passes and completely changing the sort of like three-dimensionality of his game a lot more, and that's continued pretty noticeably in the NBA. Have we ever seen a player like Paolo before? Like the 6'10", thick, strong, ball handling, scorer, playmaker hybrid.
Yeah, I was trying to think, like, as a rookie, right out of college,
or even like someone in the prime of their career who like got there. Like, I just think Paolo's at that size. It's just I can't think of a really good comp.
The only one I can think of is Amari Stoudemire.
Amari was never a good playmaker. Like,
yeah, I mean, he didn't really have that role on the Suns. He did have that really brief period on the Knicks where he was healthy
right before his injury.
2.5 months, where they did just kind of give him the ball and let him go to work. And like, it's been 10, 11 years since that point, but like, I can remember Amari like having a bit of playmaking ability when given the opportunity.
I've got another one now which is like oddly the same sad story. It was like Detroit Blake Griffin right before he was like basically done, where he was just sort of like, he was already this big injury problem, but his injuries were taking apart his game at the same time his game was still growing, and he just had this 1 year. It's like, oh, you are like a pretty good shooter, a really good playmaking hub out of the high post, and still like a bit of a rim attacker. And you just kind of like, you really have the whole offensive hub package, but like your legs and back are literally falling apart as you realize that. And this was like, Amari finally kind of figured out how to make like this basic set of reads that he never could do in Phoenix. And then the basketball gods giveth, they taketh away.
Yeah, I really hope that's not the case with Paolo, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like,
well, he's figured it out a little bit earlier in his career, at least.
There haven't been a lot of guys who are 6'10" who have this kind of frame, right, where they really do have the size and strength to play down low, but like they have all these other skills as well, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it's passing, he's got ball handling, he's got like a pull-up game. You know, he's like so quick and strong at the same time that you like really cannot prevent him from getting to the rim, and he's drawing a lot of free throws. For a rookie big, rookie, forward, we should say. But like kind of a unique player. Yeah,
definitely. He's so it's been it's been interesting to watch him play this year because he has so much freedom in Orlando. Like, he's allowed to do whatever he wants. And it's been, so you really get a sense of like where his like sort of court awareness is at, because you get to see him in all these different situations. He still plays like a high school bully. Like, he treats NBA guards in small wing like they're children that he wants to eat. And maybe I say that because I do think that Paolo Banchero looks like an ogre. Like, he looks like an animated main character ogre. But he doesn't, on the flip side, he doesn't really adjust that well against bigger NBA bodies. Like, I was watching the Magic play the Wizards not that long ago, and like Daniel Gafford blocked him like 3 or 4 times. And it just looked like, and Paolo didn't look like he cared. Like, he'd draw the help defender, so he's got Gafford on him, and he would just sort of like kind of take this half-hearted layup attempt, like he was guarded by he just looked like, oh, you've been guarded by 6'4" guys your whole life, and it doesn't, your mind doesn't really click in and adapt when you're guarded by a 6'10" guy, because you haven't seen as many of them with he's been huge for so long, right? Like this isn't like a late bloomer, like Paolo in grade 10 was just like, oh my God. So he's got this nice like calmness to his game, but sometimes it reads as a little bit careless. Like, why did you just toss up this like weak little finger roll right in Daniel Gafford's face? Like the only thing Daniel Gafford does is like swat away shots like this. Like I'm sure you've like watched film and read the scouting report. So there's like we get like in Orlando, we get to see all of Paolo's gifts, but also all his warts. And there is just like a lack of response. He's not like, what I said earlier about just rookies being bad still applies to Paolo. Like if you put Paolo on like a championship contender this year, obviously that would be a huge talent injection at a key position for a lot of contenders. But it's also like, well, are you going to let him like take all these joke pull-up mid-range shots that he's like really bad at hitting? And are you going to let him like drive into rim protectors and like toss up little layups and get blocked? Like he's really inefficient. Like he's in like like at that volume, like he's in like in terms of relative true shooting percentage, he's at like -3.7, which is like 25th percentile in the league. Like misses all, like takes a ton of mid-range pull-ups, doesn't hit them that well. But I will say that his shooting percentages have been rising as the season has gone on. Like there's clear improvements happening with him.
And it's also worth saying he's not playing with a whole lot of great playmakers on the Magic roster. With the injuries that they've had in the backcourt, you know, it's pretty much been Cole Anthony being his main running mate, and a lot.
Yeah, and he was injured for the early part of the season.
Yeah,
but he's shooting under 30% for from three to start the year, and he's been closer to league average over his last
he's gotten above that to his credit.
Yeah, I mean the assist numbers are coming up as the season goes on as well. And the other thing is that like the Orlando Magic are more and more becoming a real team. Like they won 6 games in a row at one point. They had 3 really ugly losses recently, but before beating OKC the other night, I watched most of that game, and I mean, Orlando's not a team that you can. Orlando will they will mess you up if you take them lightly. And they're also a team that they're a funny team because they're not very good overall. There's lots of holes, but in certain matchups, I watched Orlando play the Raptors, for example, and like I think I watched them play like a back-to-back against Orlando, or like a home and home series, and it was just like, oh my God, like. A team like this that doesn't have bigs, like Orlando is just too big. Like it's like they're just winning all sorts of extra possession battles because like they're putting out like Mo Bamba's coming off the bench and playing like, and Bol Bol's out there the rest of the time, and Wendell Carter Jr. and Franz Wagner and Paolo are playing the 2 and the 3 kind of thing. So it's like sometimes they just pose a big problem that teams don't have the tools to address kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, Paolo and Franz are kind of number ones on that roster in terms of like usage and shot creation, and they're playing pretty well together. So, anyways, future's really bright for Paolo. He's with Chet out and no one else looking like a for sure level star. It's definitely Paolo and everyone else.
So I mentioned at the start of this video that we did go over honorable mentions. We alluded to that a little bit throughout this video of our top 5 as well. If you want to see our honorable mentions, click here and you'll be able to go watch that video as well. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.